Hey guys, welcome back. Orbomb here, bringing you the very first of our live deck profile videos using the brand new Rebel Clash cards. Now, if you guys don't know, we're going to be start profiling Rebel Clash decks. Today we're starting with some Dragapult V. If you guys have not seen the video where we do Dragapult VMAX versus Toxtricity VMAX, that is going to be the last video on the channel. So don't forget to check that out. But we talked about it in the video a little bit, but because we believe that every card that's going to be in Rebel Clash has already been revealed, we are going to go ahead and start testing the sets, because why not? You know, have some fun. We're all stuck indoors anyways. Might as well have a little bit of fun. So before we get into the video, don't forget to drop a like if you haven't already, subscribe, share, all that good jazz. Let me know what decks you're the most excited to see profiled. And if you drop a like and answer the comment question today, you have a chance of not only winning a couple of codes, but also a booster box thanks to our lovely sponsors at Guardian Gaming. Don't forget to use code ORBOMB for 10% off all your codes and product that you can find there. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and hop right into it. A little bit different recording environment. I'm actually recording on my bed because we're all stuck at home. My whole family's stuck at home, and they all love being loud and, you know, a little bit more difficult to record than it used to be, but we're going to make do. So we're going to start with a 3-3 line of Dragapult and Dragapult VMAX. We're going to go ahead and talk about what these do. Of course, Dragapult here, nothing too special. It's just like type that's weak to dark, so it is kind of relevant. It also is resisting fighting. Or resist fighting, I didn't know that. But it's 210 HP. Weak to dark, which is relevant because dark types are not great, at least right now. And, you know, its attacks are pretty basic. It's got a first impression like attack, 60 plus 80 more damage if it became active this turn, and then 30 for 1 energy. Not too bad. But it's just honestly the stepping stone to get to the big boy himself. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a competitive VMAX mon, Dragapult VMAX, 320 HP, so it's going to be a lot of work to OHKO this dude. It does 90 damage, or 60 damage for 1 energy, and it's a shred style attack. It's not affected by anything. And its second attack does... Yes, you got this, phone. I believe in you. There you go. 130 damage. But that's not, you know, that's unimpressive in paper, which is what this is. But when you look at the game state and everything like that, it's pretty good. You hit for 130, and then his attack does 5 damage counters on any of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's almost like you're hitting 180, but you're spreading damage in a very particular way, and it's not able to be protected by bench barrier Mew because you're placing damage counters, and it's just very, very good for setting up game in a lot of different scenarios. You can think about like hitting 130 and then put 3 damage counters on the Dene, or 5 damage counters on the Eldegoss, or stuff like that, just to be able to boss's orders them, pick them up, and attack them again. Also, because it's a psychic type, you have access to things like Horror Energy, which we will go over in a second. You have access to Mysterious Treasure for a way to search it out as well. So it makes for a very consistent deck because we have all the tools we need to keep the deck consistent. So the deck is incredibly strong, and because you're so tanky, you can play this in a myriad of different ways. Now, if you guys don't know, in Japan, they did a small little 8-man tournament with some really, really powerful players, such as Shintaro Ito, and I believe his name is Yoneda. I don't actually know how to say his name. But both of these people have won the world championships. And then there's a bunch of other players over there as well. Forgive me for not knowing all the names off the top of their head. They're all very prominent players in the game. And the top 2 players, Ito and Yonada, they both played Dragapult. Now, they played different variants. One played a more bulky variant that plays things like Mallow and Lana, and you know, try to keep yourself alive as long as possible. While the other variant played a more disruptive one that played cards like Team Yell Grunt. This deck kind of plays like a combination of that, just because I wanted to get a feel of all the cards, just to see like, how do I like each card in this deck? I really like this deck so far, and I can't wait to be doing more videos. You're probably going to see me play more games using this deck, but obviously I'm going to change the deck as time goes on. But in theory, it's really, really strong. It has a lot of HP. It can tank a lot of hits. It can do a lot of damage. It can spread damage in a very particular way that can help you in the game. And it's not just that, not just this card alone that is good, because technically if this card came out right now without the set, it wouldn't be that great. But combined with cards like Boss's Orders and Scoop Up Net, this card becomes really good. Now, I do want to talk about Scoop Up Net now while we're here. This is Scoop Up Net. It's really irrelevant to the rest of the Pokemon I'm going to show you guys, but it lets you just pick up a non-2 price Pokemon. Actually, that's not true. It lets you pick up a Pokemon and put it back into your hand and discard everything attached to it if that Pokemon is on a V, VMAX, or GX. Now, it can pick up EXs. We'll see how that works in the expanded meta, but that's for a different story. Also, sorry if the camera is super shaky. I am still on my bed like I mentioned earlier. But it is something worth mentioning that we talk about this card because the rest of these Pokemon are relevant because we have access to that Scoop Up Net. Now, we are playing 3 Jirachi, standard Jirachi, being able to search our stuff. We are playing 1 Oranguru, being able to put any card from being able to draw the top card of our deck and put a card from our hand to the back on top of the deck. It's just good for drawing whatever we have on top of our deck, which is where the Mewtwo comes into play. Excuse me, guys. So the Mewtwo lets you put a supporter card from, when you bench it, you can put a supporter card from your discard pile on top of your deck, and then you draw that card using a Oranguru, so you can get a supporter instantly back. Now, we do have a new card called Eldegoss V, which is a V Pokemon that whenever you play it from your hand onto your bench, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile to your hand. So it is essentially a Pokemon version of Versus Seeker, which is really strong. But because we're trying, for the most part, to avoid putting down liable Pokemon on your bench, we are not playing the Eldegoss. But because we play Scoop Up Net, we are able to reuse this Mewtwo. So that's super relevant. Being able to reuse the Mewtwo is so strong, meaning that up to 5 times a game, we can put a supporter card from our discard pile to the on top of our deck and draw it off a Oranguru, assuming our opponent does not get rid of those Pokemon. So really, really powerful combo that I ended up using the majority of actually the last video, right? I think I used it like 3 or 4 times. It got me a boss's orders, got me researches when I need to, things like that. It's pretty strong. Other cards that we use Scoop Up Net with is a Zigzagoon. This is you just put more damage counters on the board. 1 damage counter whenever you play it from your hand onto your bench. So technically you can do this 5 times, which is 5 damage counters anywhere you want, which is really relevant because sometimes that can be the difference between taking a 2-hit KO or a 1-hit KO. So very strong in this deck. Honestly, considering playing 2 of counts of the Zigzagoon and the Mewtwo, only because they're so relevant to the strategy, I do not want to prize them. Mewtwo is especially good because it's searchable with both Quick Ball and Treasure. So, and Zigzagoon, Oranguru, all these boys, all searchable with Treasure. So having 2 just in the deck wouldn't even be terrible. But for now, we're just trying out different numbers. Here's a card. I'm kind of debating if I want to cut it. It's Fion. Because we have access to boss's orders now, it doesn't feel super necessary. If you guys don't know what boss's orders does, it's a Lysander reprinted again. It's a supporter card that lets you choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and make it their active Pokemon. So you can essentially choose what you want to knock out, right? So Fion is good because I've actually used it a lot while playing this deck. Just being able to tell your opponent, all right, opponent, give me a Pokemon. You get to choose because all of your Pokemon on your bench are nice targets for my Dragapult to attack. So for that reason, I still like it. It's searchable with Quick Ball, but it feels like it's one of those cuts. There's a bunch of cards in this deck that I'm considering cutting. So we'll talk more about it as we see those cards. But Fiona is just one of the first cards I can think of. But because it's so powerful, just in general, it's a really good card. I still like having it in the deck. And of course, we have 1 Dedenne. Although I don't like playing it, it is kind of necessary. You need your manual attachments. You need to land into your Dragapults, which you can play a higher count up if you feel like you need more Dragapults in your deck. Because you play Quick Balls and Treasures, I'm not thinking you need a 4/4 line, but you could very easily play a 4/4 line if you need to. Let's go ahead and do more. So this is the Scoop Up Net I was talking about. We're going to play 4 of these bad boys. It's super consistent, and also kind of helps because you can you don't need to find a switch every turn now, which is good. If you're playing like a Jirachi engine, you can just Scoop Up Net the Jirachi even if it's asleep from the active, so that's pretty handy. And of course, we talked about the other Pokemon that Scoop Up Net is useful for. Of course, we are still playing 4 Quick Balls. Excuse me, guys, I don't have my English versions or in my other deck, so I'm using proxies for a lot of these things. And 4 Treasures, 8 Ball Search. Automatically, a deck that can play 8 consistent Ball Search makes me happy. As a Cephalon player, This excites me. So I already love it. Now, another cards that I kind of feel like are cuttable are the switches, just because of the scoop up nets, like I mentioned earlier. Usually a game is not going to go on so long that you're going to use scoop up nets on all of your Pokemon just to reuse their abilities. Sometimes having the scoop up nets available just for switching is kind of good. So I do like the scoop nets a lot in this deck. I don't think I use switched often enough to where I would consider that it's a super important part of the deck. So another one of those cards I feel like are cuttable. Of course, one reset stamp, always good. Great catcher, always good, just because the Dene is still a card. Tag teams are still good. So having an item-based Lysander is pretty good. Bossadors, whatever you want to call it. We are playing 2 escape boards for your Jirachis. These I probably would still keep. I would still keep these. And probably one of my favorite cards in this deck right now. And one card I would probably increase to a 4 of. Actually, I don't know. That might make it a little bit more clumpy. I haven't had any issues with it playing it as a 3 of, and that's Giant Bomb. So these tag team boyos, a lot of HP. You got to hit them for a lot of damage. A lot of the meta right now is hitting for a lot of damage. Lightning decks have to hit you. I mean, lightning decks can actually avoid hitting you for too much damage if they're smart. But things like Zacian, ADP, Milotic, what are some of the relevant cards? A lot of the relevant cards in the format will hit you for 180 damage. So Giant Palm is a good way of like punishing them for damaging you. It does 10 damage. It puts 10 damage counters on them if they hit you for 180 or more damage, which is good because it puts a lot of things in range of Dragapult attack because it only hits for 130. So being able to punish them for attacking you is really important. I think Giant Bomb is great. I've had a few comments that suggested things like Mallow and Lana to get back your Pokemon and your tools. I kind of like the idea of Mallow and Lana, but I don't really think these games go on long enough to where I feel like it's super important to recur these Giant Bombs. You usually only use them 2 or 3 times a game anyways, and you can find them because like you have Jirachi, you have lots of supporters that you use throughout the game because of the Mewtwo combo that we just talked about. So it's not like you're going to be whiffing supporters very often. So this deck is super duper consistent and you'll be able to run through your deck. So I haven't had any issues finding Giant Bombs. I've actually had more issues of playing them too early because I wanted to research that turn. But it's also a good deterrent being like, look, you can hit this, you can take a knockout on it, but just know if you do, you're going to be taking 10 damage counters. There's a different build of this that plays things like Malamar that can accelerate the energy onto the Dragapult. I didn't talk about this earlier. I probably should have talked about this earlier. But there's like the Malamar version of the deck that probably won't be playing the Giant Bombs because they don't have the space for it. I don't really know if I feel like Malamar is super useful in this deck. It is only a 2 energy retreat cost. There are other options that can accelerate energies, less consistent options for sure, like Bede. But because we have access to the I guess it's technically bead, right? I think that was like confirmed that it's bead. Lets you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. It's a good way to accelerate an extra energy onto the board if you're looking to have a Dragapult show up out of nowhere. There are other options out there. I saw some decks playing Pokédolls so that you can just leave a Pokédoll active while you set up energies on your Dragapult. There's a lot of different ways to build this Dragapult deck. I really like the idea of having the Giant Bombs in the list though, for sure. This is probably my favorite part. So this is the thing I personally won't change, only because like Giant Bomb is not only like super good, but it's also a really fun card. Like how often do you get to play Giant Bomb in a deck and say it's competitive, right? So I do like the Giant Bombs a lot in this list. There are probably ways around it, so it might not be the most competitive way, but because of the way the format is, most decks are going to be hitting you for a lot of damage just so they can easily 2 KO you. Because if they don't hit you for that 180, most of the time they're not going to 2 KO you. You have 320 HP. If they hit you for 180, that still leaves you with 140 HP left. Like usually they have to hit you for those big numbers just to 2 KO you. So, pretty fun. I'm also playing 2 Swell. There's some stadiums in this deck that are not in this deck, in this format, that are kind of annoying. Cards like the Galar Mines that Milotic plays, the one that increases your retreat cost by 2, that could be annoying to deal with. Always Thunder Mountain is a problem. And just being able to disrupt your opponent's consistency stadiums like Viridian Forest or Giant Hearth or Heat Factory. I still like the stadiums. They're not super necessary, and honestly, you could probably get away with playing that Mars Shadow that lets you bump stadiums if you feel like you don't want to play any stadium cards. Mars Shadow is technically more searchable as well. So if you don't like that and you want an excuse to play something like Mars Shadow, then sure, you can do that instead. I could definitely see that being an option. I don't know what other stadiums I would want to play in this deck. Maybe my own Viridian Force just to search energies. I haven't had too much issue getting energies, but I could see issues finding energies early game, only because you're playing 9, right? So it is important to get those manual attachments every turn, which I'm playing 9 energies, by the way, which is another thing you can increase. You could always just play more energies if you feel like that's not enough. And once again, you do have access to those normal, I think it's called Normal Rod, that lets you shuffle Pokemon and energies back. And so if you're worried about energies, if you're worried about Pokemon, that's an option as well. As far as our supporters go, for research, for Marnie, super duper consistent, and we can get these cards back thanks to the whole Mewtwo combo. We are playing 3 Boss's Orders, just because they're easy enough to find at a 3F count. A lot of lists are not playing 3, they're usually playing 2. I just like having 3 because I want to be able to have access to them as often as I can, not only having them in my hand more often than usual, but being able to dump them quickly in the game so that I can use Mewtwo to get them back into my hand. I want to use this card I want to use this card a lot when I'm playing Dragapult, because I don't have to draw every turn, right? Like, as far as the Dragapult deck goes, the bare minimum is usually just attaching an energy. Like, if you're going to attach an energy, maybe evolve up into your Dragapults. That's usually all you need to do for the turn. After that, you're just attacking. So I do like having access to 3 of these. Honestly, could see myself bumping it up to 4. Haven't had any issues with them at 3 of, though. I really like the 3 of number. Other cards we're playing, a card I haven't used yet, but I could see myself using, is Malolana. Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a really good combo with the Giant Bomb, right? Because, like, if they hit you for too much, they're going to take damage. But if they hit you for too little, you're going to heal it off with Malolana. So the combo is actually kind of super strong with the Giant Bomb, and I do like it a lot. Because your hand is so full of cards, you don't need a lot of the time. Like I said, the deck is very self-sufficient. It runs on very little. All you got to do is attach energy and attack for the most part through every turn. You're not looking to do any crazy combo plays. Your hand is full of cards that you can easily dump, so Malolana is good for that. The problem with playing Malolana, though, is that we don't play Tag Call, so it's not really searchable. You could probably increase this count to 3 or 4 if you really wanted to. I wouldn't put that against you. If you wanted to abuse this card like no other. I really want to try this deck list out with probably more Malolana and just try a bunch of different matchups, see how I like it. Because, like, if you think about it, you have 320 HP, right? Let's go off like a Zacian number, right? Zacian hits you for 230. You heal that. Now you only have 110 damage on you. If they hit you for another 230, you're still getting knocked out. See, that's not really a good example, huh? You're still getting knocked out, right? Yeah, you are still getting knocked out. So it's not. That's probably why Malolana stopped seeing a lot of play. Now, if you're playing against something like Toxtricity, that's hitting you for like 160 because, of course, they couldn't get the poison off on you. You heal them, you have 40. You're at to 40. Another 160 is not taking a knockout on you. Because you have a retreat cost of 1, Milotic can probably get you to have a retreat cost of 4. So they're probably hitting you for 210. You heal to 220 from that. Now you have 90 damage on you. Another 210 is not even a knockout. That's assuming they increase your retreat cost by 3 by having 1 Absol down, 1 Malolana. What are some other relevant cards? What are some relevant decks, actually? I wonder. It's kind of hard to, like, figure out what the format is going to be. But, I mean, there's fire decks. Fire decks are actually kind of like getting down to a point where they're not hitting you for ginormous numbers all the time. So you can Malolana away from the fire decks. And once again, this deck is so, like, also in the mirror match, right? Like in the mirror match, Malolana is beautiful. They're only hitting you for 110. Like, you're gonna heal, only have 10 damage on you. It's great. So if you're expecting Dragapult to be super popular, then it's super useful to be playing cards like Malolana just for the mirror, right? Is there like a better card? I don't think so. So there you go. Now Ito was playing, not Ito, the other guy, Yonada. He was playing Team Yell Grunt. at a 2 of count. I tried it at a 1 of, so I don't really mind playing these random 1 of supporters in this deck. Like I said earlier, we have access to that whole like versus Seeker combo with the Mewtwo. So getting the supporters back into your hand is not super hard, but Team Yell Grant, what it does is puts an energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon back into their hand. So it's a good way to disrupt things like early game ADP. The problem is finding it right because you're only playing it as a 1 of, and it's not like we don't have a Lele, so it's not like we're going to be able to search this Team Yell Grant. So even at a 2 of, I can't see this card being super consistent and worth playing. So I'm going to keep trying it, but also I can see myself cutting it because I don't think I'll like it. But if you are the kind of person who thinks Maulana is just terrible, you could probably play this at like a 3 of count. Replace the Maulanas, play 2 more Team Yell Grunts. You can find it fairly consistently that way, and it could just destroy like ADP decks, right? Because ADP decks need those manual attachments. We're going to be going over an Inteleon deck list here, hopefully soon, that has the same effect. I believe it's a very similar effect to Team Yell Grant. That's a card that I definitely want to play Team Yell Grant in, but for the time being, I'm kind of in the air about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about Team Yell Grant versus Maulana. What are your arguments for them? What are your arguments against them? Obviously, they're all very powerful cards. You just kind of want to, when it comes to Dragapult, you just kind of want to choose an engine and or like not even an engine. You just kind of want to choose a play style and go with that and see how far it takes you. Now we're playing 4 Horror Energy. Horror Energy is really cool. Another reason why this deck is so cool. So when attached to a Pokemon, every time you take damage, the opponent's Pokemon takes 2 damage counters. So if anytime your opponent attacks the Pokemon that has this Horror Energy attached to it, if it's a Psychic type, of course, they will take 2 damage counters. So it's super relevant for cards like the ADP matchup, right? ADP hits you for 180. No, okay, you hit them because yours is 2 energy attack costs. They're probably going to GX attack first, right? You hit them for 130. You have a Horror Energy attached, right? They attack you, they take 2 damage counters. Now they're at 150 damage. You hit them for another 130, they get knocked out. So it deters them from actually hitting you, which is really relevant because that does slow down their energy acceleration, or they give up 3 prizes, one or the other, right? So really good card just in general. And of course, more damage counters on the board is always good. As many damage counters as you can put on the board as possible, which is another option if you're looking for more options of playing this deck. You can easily play a Shrine of Punishment. If you're expecting to see a lot more GX Pokemon, I should say, more tag teams in the format, you could easily play a Shrine of Punishment. I don't know. We'll have to see how the format ends up. But Shrine of Punishment is definitely an option. You don't want to play Lysander Labs. You don't want to play Power. I mean, you could play Power Plant. You're turning off your own Dedenne when Dedenne is really useful to help you find those energies. But obviously, you're only playing 1 Dedenne. So Power Plant's another option just to turn off your opponent's Dedennes. There's a lot of different stadium options you can play out there. Also, we're playing 5 basic energy. You can increase this to 6, 7, 8. I don't really care. The energy count, you do want to find energies as often as you can when it comes to this deck, just because you need to have a manual attachment pretty much every turn, right? So that's going to be the deck list. I'm just going to start I'm going to actually do a couple test hands here. Not like it really matters too much. This is not like Yu-Gi-Oh or anything. Like you just want to, it's not like combos. I mean, you're playing based off how the game is going, but still it's interesting. I'm just trying to think about like what's going to be good in the meta, right? You know what I'm going to do? Actually, I have my computer on me. This is very different than usual because usually I don't have my computer on me because I'm using it. But let's talk. I'm going to quickly pull up the website I use, and we're going to talk about how I expect the matchups to go based off the format, right? Now, this is going to be the Dragapult one. We're going to have Toxtricity going up tomorrow. Toxtricity is interesting because it's one of the few cards, if not the only card, that can boast being able to OHKO very, very easily. Let's see if I have here it is. All 33 decks that have won after the VMAX era, right? So you got a lot of Pikachu and Zekrom. Now Pikachu and Zekrom takes a lot for them to OHKO you, but they have cards like, what's it called? Boltund that does 30 damage for each energy attached to the board. but Bolton also has low HP, and you can easily spread damage to their Dedenes, and bosses order their Dedenes. Boltons only have 200 HP, so with enough damage spread, you can eventually OHKO those two. And of course, you do 2-hit KO the Pikarom. So if you can, do that all before they start blasting you away, you can win that. That matchup feels very winnable, but we'll have to do more tests. Non-GX Pokemon matchups, those seem pretty good as well. Think of things like Bucephalon, right? You have so much HP that Bucephalon's going to have a hard time OHKOing you quickly. You OHKO the Bucephalons in return, and you can also spread damage, and you have access to cards like, what's it called? Zigzagoon that can put even more damage on the board. Just being able to put 5 damage anywhere is really relevant for taking multiple knockouts at the same turn, and having the Swell to get rid of their Hearth just to slow them down even more. Marnie to constantly put them at low hand sizes, that's really, really good as well. Of course, your Mewtwo and Mew matchups are pretty good just because you are a Psychic type, but you hit them for 260. You hit them with 1 damage spread of any kind. If you play Shrine, 1 Shrine tick. Even things like Zigzagoon can put that all in range of you being able to OHKO them. And of course, if you're really worried about things like, what's it called? Things like Giant Hearth, you can play a Tool Scrapper that lets you discard tools. Now, let's see what this hand looks like. I didn't really shuffle too well, but we'll see. Yeah, you can definitely tell I did not shuffle very well. Yeah. What else is there? One matchup that could be kind of annoying is Metal Decks, because, when you're playing Metal Decks, they have a lot of damage reduction, and their whole thing is about spreading damage on them. Unless they play things like Metal Goggles, which they might play, but I really don't see it because they enjoy their Frying Pan. Unless they want to play it alongside Frying Pan, which I could definitely see, actually. You're going to be putting 5 damage cards wherever you want, but they have reduction between both Metal Goggle / Frying Pan and Lucario Metal GX attack. And then there's Copper which has 340 HP. So that matchup could definitely be really difficult, and I could see that being in the favor of the deck for sure. What is Stringer? Let's see. Oh, Stringer is the Japanese name for Toxtricity. All right, cool. Didn't know that. Well, I think that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. It's definitely a longer deck profile than what I usually do. I'm in my bedroom, though, so it's easy enough for me to just be all like, hey, let's talk about it, guys. Well, already a good hand. Already great hand. Already a phenomenal hand. This is actually super good. And we have Horror Energy, so that's really good. Yeah, we have 2 Jirachi's Horror Energy. We can dump our hand, which is including a Boss's Orders, which is actually super good because you can actually get the Mewtwo to put the Boss's Orders back. Now your Mewtwo Boss's Orders play is live throughout the game, and you can treasure to probably get a second Dragapult just to have 2 down so you can evolve them both quickly. Pretty amazing hand there. The deck is consistent is what I'm trying to say, even with our opponent getting a mulligan. Of course, you do want to go first, so if you were going first, that hand's still fine because you accomplished your goal of just getting a manual attachment on Dragapult, right? This hand is also good because you accomplish your goal of getting a manual attachment onto Dragapult. You can even Quick Ball to get the Dene, Treasure to get the other Dragapult, attach the Dragapult, and then dump your hand. So I like the deck a lot. I don't know. I'm just talking at this point. It's really cool to have a new deck that's really good because, with Zacian being as good as it is, it's been taking a toll on the meta, right? Like, all you see is Zacian, all you see is cards that can disrupt Zacian, and, the meta becomes boring because of it. But this is different, and if there's more disruption in the format, you can easily play cards like Malamar. Even a 1/1 line of Malamar could really help this deck a lot. Once again, mulligan, but it's fine. Anyways, that's going to be the video, guys. It's almost a 30-minute deck profile. I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to drop a like if you haven't already. Peace.